Hello, my name is Abraham Klein, and this is Yinzer Club. Hello, Yinzers. My name is Abraham Klein. We want to welcome you to the program today. Our guest on today's show is a gentleman by the name of Brett Ridgeway. I think that's how you say your name, right?
Yes.
Okay. And today we're just sort of getting to know him. He's a guy of very unique passions, very unique interests, and we're going to get to know all about that today. So, Brett, how you doing today?
Good.
Good. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. First of all, who is Brett Ridgeway outside of all of the different music and stuff you're involved with?
I was born in Pittsburgh, and I've done a lot of things, actually. For a long time, I did reptile lectures. And actually, I've been on like Pittsburgh Today and a few of the other shows in Pittsburgh. I don't think Pittsburgh Today's on anymore, but things like that. And then I was actually in the ministry. I was a missionary overseas in Kenya.
Oh, wow.
And then since I've come back, I've done a lot of different things. But right now I'm doing the music, which goes all the way back to when I was a kid, you know.
Okay. So, all right. So now suddenly I'm intrigued about the fact that you said reptile lectures or shows or something like that?
Yes. I lived in Mercer, Pennsylvania, and I actually had the reptiles, lots of reptiles. I also had a mountain lion and some other things. I was licensed by the state and also USDA, but I had the exotics, and then lots of reptiles, I guess, more than anything. And I used to go into schools, and I actually would do it in churches for like vacation Bible schools and things like that. Mm-hmm. But wow. Yeah, I've done the reptile thing also my entire life, probably before the music.
Yes. So how did you get into that? Like what inspired you? Because obviously it's not something you just jump into one day. I mean, it's got to take a little bit of organization and commitment to want to do anything with, you know, creatures that are living and having to take care of them and all that stuff.
You mean, where did it start? Or
yeah, well, I mean, like, what inspired you to do it? How did it start? Like, what was the reason behind all of that? Like, kind of start with that, I guess.
When I was probably 7 or 8, my brother and I, with my grandfather, would always take us to this lake for fishing. And we saw these teenagers, and they were throwing rocks at this big black snake in the water. And my brother ran down, and I mean, we were like little kids, and asked him to stop, and we caught it, the two of us. And ever since that, I just kind of loved the reptiles. When I was in Kenya, I caught a lot of venomous stuff there. And I've had snakes before that.
Yeah.
And then when I came back home, I had reptiles just as a hobby.
Yeah.
And then I think when I got the mountain lion is when I started doing the lectures.
Mountain lion.
Yeah.
All right. So you were like the Lion King.
Yeah. I'm actually, everybody knows me did know me as the snake guy.
The snake guy. Okay.
Yeah, it's not that great of a title, but that's what I was known at for a long time.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Actually, where I work for one of my jobs, after school program, there's a girl there that goes by the name of the Snake Girl because she likes snakes. So I guess it kind of goes together with what you do. You know, you like snakes, say she like, you know. Anyway, so yeah, you did that for many years. So that's obviously interesting, considering the fact that now you're doing everything with music and things like that.
Right.
And then you went on and you were a missionary for a while. How did that all?
That was before that.
Oh, that was before that.
That was before that. I mean, yes, that was all before I did the reptiles and the shows and things like that. The reptiles have been a hobby my entire life just because I enjoy them. Mm-hmm. And then when I started doing the lectures, I was like, and I'm sure you've seen it, like somebody comes into your high school or your elementary school and has all the animals.
Yeah.
You know, the jungle gym type. That's what I did.
Yeah.
Before that, I was a missionary in Kenya.
Okay. Tell us about that a little bit. What was that experience like for you?
It was much easier than in a way that I expected. I didn't really have what's it called, culture shock going over, but I had culture shock coming back because we're a lot. I don't mean this in an offensive way. We're a lot noisier than a lot of other countries, and just so much busier.
Yeah.
You know, over there were frustrations, but the frustrations were time stood. You know, when I was there, and I'm sure it's changed, but like to pick up a piece of mail could take 45 minutes.
Wow.
You know, that kind of stuff, just all the checkpoints and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. So.
Yeah. I mean, I've had friends from Kenya. For those that don't know, I'm actually involved with International Friendship Program through the Indiana University, IUP up in Indiana. And, they have a lot of scholars and students that come over. And they pretty much all know English. Was that an issue for you while you were over there? Because I know a lot of them know, I believe they speak Swahili and French, I do believe as well, right?
I don't know about the French. I learned Swahili.
Okay.
Although I don't remember much of it, but I went to language school for 6 months and learned Swahili.
Okay. Yeah.
And basically where I was working, the tribe was Pokot. So I would actually preach in Swahili, and then I had a translator who would translate it to Pokot.
Oh, okay.
It was actually translated 3 times, from English to...
Yeah, right. Huh.
So everything took twice as long.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, okay, that's interesting. So then after that, you came back, you did the reptiles and things like that eventually. And so now the big thing, as I've seen online, what I've known you for pretty much and how we got interested in all this is the instruments and stuff like that. So tell us about how that all started and where that's sort of grown, because obviously you don't just know all these instruments in one day. It takes a lot of commitment.
I started with bluegrass banjo when I was about 16. And then I played around with mountain dulcimer a little bit, then never really got into it. Same with hammer dulcimer, which I never really got into that a whole lot. I mean, I did get into it, but when I came back from Kenya and I started having more time, after even the animals, I really started getting into it. And I like it, a lot of it for the historical aspect, but I absolutely love the music itself. So I actually play and teach. You can see some of them up here.
Yeah.
I actually play and teach hammer dulcimer, mountain dulcimer, hammer dulcimer. Wait, what'd I say? Clawhammer banjo, mountain dulcimer, hammer dulcimer.
Mountain, yeah.
Ukulele, which I don't strum and I pick the melody. Auto harp, a few other things. I don't read any music at all.
Wow.
And you don't have to read any music to play. That's what when you talk to people, they say, well, I can't play anything because I don't read music. I don't read music at all. So, there's a lot of it historical. For example, like the banjo is our national instrument, which a lot of people don't know that, and probably embarrasses a lot of people. But that's our national instrument. Mountain dulcimers and 5-string banjo are the only 2 truly American instruments.
Yeah, that's right. I do believe the dulcimer was something that started in like deep South, right? Wasn't that?
Actually, it was in Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. Yeah. I actually, I was sort of into getting into dulcimers and playing and stuff like that. Because when I was I might have been about 17, 18 years old, I found this, article. I think they used to have this thing in the newspaper, little leaflet in the Sunday papers called American Profile or something like that. And they had this thing on this guy that had an entire shop full of dulcimers, and I read the article and stuff like that. So then I was like intrigued about it, and I thought, I'd like to find a dulcimer. So then I looked, and eventually I found one, and spent a lot of time playing. Eventually I found a cigar box dulcimer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I played that for a little while. And so, yeah, so that's sort of one of the, like, I don't know if you'd call it odd instruments that I was always sort of interested in. And I think that's sort of how we might have met. I'm not sure exactly where our friendship sort of started on Facebook and whatnot, but
yeah, it's a highly underrated instrument.
yeah.
You know? I mean, I've played it for weddings, and it's not, just strumming. It can be very pretty.
Yeah.
But you could play Bach, Beethoven. I know Cyndi Lauper, I think, plays a mountain dulcimer.
Oh yeah.
There's a few other things. So and I've heard it like in all kind of genres of music. It's not just, but I'm pretty traditional, I guess, with a lot of what I do.
Yeah. And then, well, actually, I have a friend who, after I had started playing the dulcimer, he picked it up and he went, much farther than I ever did.
Yeah.
And I think I actually, on my YouTube channel, I actually have some of his music he's played already. But yeah. So I've always liked the dulcimer. But you also play like the hammer dulcimer as well. That's another too, right?
Yeah. Hammer dulcimer actually goes way back. That's mentioned in the Bible. And I know there's carvings of it in Egypt. And every country kind of has their own name for it. I know hackbrett is one of them. I can't even think of the names. And it's not a hard instrument. Everybody thinks it's so hard because you got all those strings.
Yeah.
But it's not that really hard at all. In some ways, it's easier than the mountain dulcimer.
Wow.
Mountain dulcimer is hard for some people just because, like, if your hands get, what's it called?
Arthritic?
Yeah, arthritic or stiff. People have trouble with that. And with the hammer dulcimer, you don't have those issues.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a hard instrument. I really think the hardest instrument there is guitar.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's hard physically.
Okay.
You got 6 strings. They're hard to hold down.
Yeah.
You got a wide neck. Like the hardest string on the banjo is like the lightest or easiest string on a guitar.
Yeah.
So it's, much easier to play. Yeah. I mean, I play guitar, but that's the one I think is the hardest of all of them.
Yeah. I always thought the banjo was the more difficult one, just because there's so much involved with picking. And I mean, I know you could strum the banjo, but that's more of a Dixieland style, really, when you start getting into strum.
Yeah.
So to do all that, it's just, I don't know.
Well, I do 2 different styles.
Uh-huh.
The one is what you're talking the bluegrass style.
Yeah, right.
And the other is claw hammer. And
okay.
That's actually, I don't want to say more simplistic. Well, it probably is more simplistic. I like it much, much, much better than bluegrass, which is kind of strange because as a kid, I couldn't stand it.
You couldn't stand the banjo?
I couldn't stand claw hammer.
Oh, claw hammer. Okay.
And then, like in the last 15, 20 years, it's totally flipped. I do bluegrass, but I really love claw hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Claw hammer is more of you hear the melody more.
Yeah.
It's just very old-timey sounding.
Yeah. So how many instruments altogether would you say that you've learned to play?
I got to count. So hammer, mountain, banjo, either style, ukulele, auto harp, penny whistle, psaltery, guitar. I know how to do a fiddle. I can't play it. I sound like a 5-year-old, but I can pick out the melody. I could do that. So like 7 or 8, but I don't really focus on all those.
Right.
I focus mainly on the dulcimers, actually both dulcimers, the banjo and the ukulele.
Okay.
And again, I don't play ukulele like most people play ukulele.
Right.
Pretty much I claw hammer everything.
Claw hammer everything. Okay.
And it just sounds, it's different. And not the mountain dulcimer necessarily, but you can.
Yeah. Now, do you play anything outside, or have you ever attempted to play anything outside of stringed instruments? Like, have you ever gone into percussion or brass, or maybe piano or anything like that, organs?
No, no. I mean, I sat down at a piano and messed around, but I can't. I've never done it. When people talk, and I don't think you have to read music to play piano either, because I know people who don't.
Right.
But when I hear people talk music, I just hear blah 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 blah. It doesn't click with me.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't. Because when I teach, people who read music know what I'm talking about.
Right.
I understand all the things, but I don't read music.
Yeah.
Mostly everything I do is by ear. And the lessons that I have on YouTube have no music. Because I think the reason I think a lot of people have trouble memorizing stuff is because they're really teaching their eyes to play and not their hands to play.
Yeah.
So what I do is I'm teaching your hands to play.
Yeah. Yeah. And the interesting thing about music, though, is that it seems like a lot of people approach it from different perspectives. Like the guy that taught me guitar, he approached it more or less from a mathematical perspective, and how that everything from how you place your fingers and the spacing and the fretting and stuff like that, it's all basically math if you really break it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And whereas other people look at it from the actual nuts and bolts of the music. So I think that's interesting how people look at it in different perspectives.
I think too. The two examples I give is you could find people in Appalachia who may not be able to read or write their own name. But they can play a fiddle better than somebody who's classically trained.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Because they know the instrument. And then the other is when you hear somebody play, if you've ever heard a concert pianist play and you're like wowed, you don't go up to them later and say, I cannot believe how well you read music. You say how well you play. But I agree, everybody learns different and everybody does approach it differently.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because like a lot of some of the best, this is not to take away from those who do know music. Obviously, that requires a lot of talent and ability. But, like you've seen, like Jerry Lee Lewis was a really great piano player. I don't think he really could read music. And there's other examples where people could play just instruments like you wouldn't believe, and they didn't know how to read music. And look at you, you're an example yourself. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, when I started Hammer Dulcimer, I was teaching it. And I bought a book on Hammer Dulcimer chords. And this is almost embarrassing to say, but I was playing it, and I actually had an arrangement sent to a university to be transposed into standard notation.
Yeah.
And the lady who did it actually thought I had my master's in music. But when I finally got the book, which was after all that, that was the first time I realized I was even playing chords. I didn't know I was playing chords. I just knew what to do where it sounded right. Where it sounded pretty, but I didn't realize that I was actually playing a chord on the instrument.
Yeah.
So it's more of a natural thing. But as a kid, I didn't like music. Like music class at school. I was okay, but I wasn't really into it.
Yeah, you're more of a Snake guy, right?
Yeah, that is so very true at that time.
Yeah. So. So I've noticed as following you on Facebook and different places like that, where you've sort of given not only instruction on the basics of these instruments, but you've also told like some of the history of some of these instruments. I know once you did a video with the hammer dulcimer, and you said that the song that you were playing was I believe it was the presidential song for John Garfield or something like that.
Yeah.
I know it was a few years ago.
Yeah, I think it's Forked Deer.
Yeah.
And I
So
can't remember the president, but yes, that was his
yeah,
campaign song.
yeah, campaign song. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, do you do a lot of that, like research into old music and stuff like that?
I do, because I like to know what the songs are about.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll tell you two that I'm thinking of real quick. This is not really a history of the song, but they actually found a shopping list of a pioneer to build a log cabin.
Yeah.
And on it, it had nails, it had the wood, it had everything very specific, how many pounds, how many lengths. And the last thing on that list was a fiddle. And I think that's kind of neat, because they use music to work by,
Yeah.
you know. The other is, there's a song called Over the Waterfall. And if you hear it, it's a very happy song, very lively, very bouncy. And it was killing me to know what it was. It took me a long time to research it, to find it. And it actually took 2 years. Now, that's not, constant research.
Yeah.
But it was over a space of 2 years. And I finally found the words, and I found the history. And it's about a man and a woman who were married, and he dearly loved his wife, and she dearly loved somebody else. So she decides to poison him. And she feeds him poison. And she feeds him poison, and he doesn't die, but he goes blind. And then he becomes so depressed he wants to kill himself, and she volunteers to help him. Okay. So he wants to throw himself in the river and go over the waterfall, but because he's blind, he can't get there himself. So she helps him down, and he accidentally knocks her in. And the more he tries to save her, the more he ends up pushing her under, and she dies and goes over the waterfall. So it really confused me, because I thought, this is such happy music. Why? What in the world? How did this come about? When the song was written, it was before guitars were invented. So it's a really old song, and it was written originally in a minor or a modal key, sort of as a warning song, like, you don't do this stuff.
Yeah.
But when guitars came along at that time, they didn't even know how to make minor chords, so they changed the key to a major chord. So I tell people it's a happy song about death, which is basically what it's become. But just the history of that, I think, is really neat. And, back, especially where there were no newspapers, I mean, that probably actually happened, that story.
Oh, yeah? Wow.
If you look at a lot of the old Appalachian songs, they're about life and death. They're about when people are married, when people die, when people are born. A lot of them are like that. And they even say that the Civil War was the South lost because of music. A lot of there were several songs that were prohibited to be sung in the southern camps, because when it was sung, they would get homesick and they would desert. So there's a lot of stuff like that. There's one called Camp Chase. There's near Columbus, Ohio. There was a Union camp, a prison camp for Confederate soldiers, and they were overcrowded, and they decided to have a contest and let someone out, and they did a fiddle contest, and whoever won, they got to go home, which actually happened. And the guy who won named it Camp Chase after where he was held. And so all these songs have these really unique stories behind them. And that's what I love. I do love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I do notice it seems like a lot of the, especially old songs, tend to have a real grasp on like mortality and everyday life and the tragedy of life, really.
Yeah.
And I guess they were living in a time when people didn't live very long anyway. They lived to maybe their 40s. So I guess, I don't know. I guess that must have just constantly been on the mind or something.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't near as much distraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
There pretty much was just, life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was.
Yeah.
I think even when someone was born or when somebody died, it was a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So, how far back do you usually go as far as your interest in music? Like, how old do you typically go as far as your music?
You mean how young do I teach?
No, with far back as far as finding old songs, like how old do you usually your interests go, I guess.
I don't know. I don't really, I guess, look at it that way. If I find a song I like and I want to know, that's what I research.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think that Over the Waterfall, that's not even from that's from Ireland or something. In fact, most of these fiddle tunes we play and stuff are from Ireland or Scotland. They're not American. But that was one of the oldest, because I really don't know when guitars were invented.
Yeah.
But when I was doing the research, I know they said it was before guitars were invented. So that had to be some time ago.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you do anything like more modern with your music, or you pretty much stay classic, old stuff?
Very, very little. Mostly classic old stuff. There's everybody thinks that I Can't Help Falling in Love with You is by Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
That's actually called Plaisir d'Amore. I can't say it right. It's French. But it's something like Plaisir d'Amore, and it stands for the pleasure of love.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually written in the 1700s.
Oh, wow.
So I do play that melody. And everybody knows it as I Can't Help Falling in Love with You.
Yeah.
But I really don't do a whole lot. I know there's a lot of people who do. And I'd probably be more popular if I did.
Yeah.
But I like what I do. So
yeah. Well, I mean, as far as popularity is concerned, it seems like you have grown a decent following. I think you've accumulated a good amount of subscribers on YouTube.
Yes.
And things like that. Tell us a little about sort of some of your social media following.
I got a good following with that. With YouTube, I think I've gotten within 2 years about 9,000.
Oh wow! Yeah.
So that's really jumped. But on Facebook, it's doing good. I was scheduled for a lot of festivals this year, but of course they were all canceled.
Right.
So we're doing, for anybody interested, we're doing an online festival called the Quarantune Festival.
Quarantune, okay.
Quarantune Festival. I think it's just quarantune.com, but it's really some of the top players all over the country for hammer dulcimer, mountain dulcimer, and ukulele.
Okay. When's that going to be taking place?
Pardon me?
When's that going to be taking place?
That's June 5th and 6th.
June 5th and 6th. Cool. Yeah.
And then I do a lot of live stream workshops and things like that.
Okay.
And I do a lot of stuff that people don't normally do, like how to overcome your fear, whether it's public speaking or singing. I do stuff like that.
Okay.
As part of that, I have a workshop called Get Over Yourself, which I think everybody ought to take.
Yeah, right.
But things like that, how to play with emotion. So it's more than just playing an instrument. It's a lot of things.
A lot of the psychology of doing it, I guess.
Yeah. I think people are really, anybody who's learning an instrument, they're very, very self-critical. They look at being slow as a bad thing. Slow is a good thing. I always tell people, if you're having open heart surgery, do you want your doctor to have learned everything fast?
We're losing it.
I'm here.
You sort of stopped there for a second.
Okay.
You said when you're having heart surgery, I get it, or you're having...
Yeah, I said, if you're having heart surgery, would you want your doctor to have learned everything really fast? Right. Or slow? And the obvious answer is slow. So there's nothing wrong with slow. Slow's a good thing.
Yeah.
And same with failure. They look at failure as defeat. It's not the same thing. Defeat and win. Failure is just a step to doing it better.
Yeah. And you're right. I think that's true, because a lot of what goes into music and playing music does have a lot to do with our perspective of how we present ourselves in a lot of ways, because a lot of times our fears can hold us back.
Yeah
Definitely.
Yeah
So trying to think here, with everything that you do, is this, what are all the aspects of different things that you do? I know you have an online presence. Normally you would be going to festivals and stuff like that. Are you like a musician for hire? Do you go play concerts and stuff like that?
Yes.
Okay.
I've done some weddings. I really don't care to do weddings, but I've done them. And the only reason is that's like such a big deal, to do a wedding. In other words, you don't want it to be you want it to be a good experience. And I've done weddings, and I've played places. I've done like openings and background music type things. So yes, I do that. So yes, I do play like that, and parties and things like that, Christmas parties, things like that. So we do that. That would be live. My wife, if my wife's with me, she's got a beautiful voice. She sings.
That's nice.
She's hard to get out there though, but when she is, she's got a beautiful voice. And then we do the YouTube. The YouTube lessons are all free.
Mm-hmm.
That's up there. I do the live streaming, and that's paid workshops. And then I teach on Skype, and I teach on like FaceTime and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty much what I do full time. I mean, it is what I do full time. It's just
Right. Yeah.
music.
So with that, like, what kind of people do? I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's not the right term to use. Like the different people that I don't know. I'll just say it. What kind of people do you typically attract that are interested in stuff like the hammer dulcimer or the mountain dulcimer, or banjo, and all these? And I'm sure you get people that want to play guitar and ukulele and things like that. But like, what kind of people are attracted to these kind of instruments?
It really depends. It really does depend. I would say that I just had a lady call me today, and she said she's 80 years old, and she's picking up the mountain dulcimer for the first time.
Wow.
And she said and she said her best friend, who's also 80 years old, they're both doing it together.
Yeah.
And they're following. But I've taught kids I've actually taught as young as 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
That's pushing it, but I've taught that young.
Yeah.
So it really just depends. It's I don't know that it's an age thing or a kind of person. They just kind of fall in love with the music, whatever the music is. Hammer dulcimer is probably more. A lot of people they hear it hammer dulcimer, but they don't know what they're listening to.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you hear music and you're not even really sure what instrument you're listening to.
Right. When I do a wedding on hammer dulcimer, I'm not playing old time classicals. I'm not, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm playing something more Celtic or just light. It doesn't always have. It can be very slow and very pretty, and like I said, classical or whatever. So I think it's really more the people who are attracted to that kind of music. I have found that like the mountain dulcimer people and the hammer dulcimer people are usually separate from the banjo people.
Okay.
It's like a different, and they're starting to come together.
Yeah.
Like now you're finding dulcimer or banjo stuff at dulcimer festivals. And ukulele people, same thing. Ukulele is totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're all really all different,
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't peg it to a certain group of people. I think they just like that music.
Yeah.
And ironically, with the ukulele, what I'm teaching, a lot of ukulele players have no interest in, because I'm teaching how to play the melody, and it seems like most ukulele people just want to strum it and sing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of creating. I've had several people go out and buy ukuleles to learn this style, who never had interest before, but they like what I'm teaching, so they've actually gone out and bought ukuleles. So I'm kind of bringing in a different group here.
Yeah. So I guess trick question here. What's your favorite instrument?
I guess if I had to bring it down to one, it would be clawhammer banjo.
Okay. Yeah. And why is that?
I don't know. Maybe because I've done banjo. As far as playing banjo, bluegrass and clawhammer are completely different, but the left hand's all the same.
Yeah.
It's just a right hand difference. It's very, very relaxing. It's very. I've told people if they play, they'll get this. But if you play one, there's a feeling to it. It's really hard to explain, but I like that. I like how it feels when you're playing it. Um, and I'm probably just the most comfortable with that. You know, the ukulele, I never really thought I'd get into, but I'm playing it the same way as I'm doing the banjo.
Yeah.
So basically, when I started ukulele, I just picked it up and started doing it because somebody pointed this out to me, and I don't know if this will make sense to everybody, but like on a guitar, the lowest string, it goes from low to high. Well, the banjo, the top string is the highest, and then it goes low to high.
Yeah, ukulele, you mean?
On a banjo.
Oh, on a banjo, okay.
But a ukulele is the same way.
Okay.
So somebody pointed that out to me because I was having a hard time even figuring out the scale, and they said, no, the scale starts on the third string.
Yeah.
Like the banjo starts on the fourth string. And it was like, oh my, and it just clicked.
Huh.
And I literally started picking up and playing it.
Yeah.
Because it was so close to how the banjo is. A lot of people don't know that connection.
Huh. I definitely didn't get that connection myself.
Yeah.
Because I know like an open strum is a G chord on a banjo, right?
Right.
Yeah. What I noticed was that the guitar and ukulele, the chord pattern is similar. It's just that it's different. If that makes sense. Because what's normally like a D on a guitar is a G on a ukulele. Because I've mostly played chords. That's mostly been my experience with instruments and stuff like that. And it's like you're playing the same thing except it's completely different. So it's So I actually started out with the guitar and then I went to ukulele, and so doing ukulele actually was pretty easy for me as well. So
yeah. Well, when somebody made that connection, it just clicked.
Okay.
For me, so it's. I'm just looking to see what else I got hanging there. No, I think that's it.
Yeah. So as you played, is there one that was like probably the more difficult to learn? I know you just mentioned about the difficulties with ukulele, but was there any other one that was more trying?
Not really. It really depends on the extent that you want to take it. Because a mountain dulcimer, basically, if you can count to 7, you can play it.
Okay.
It literally goes straight up the scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So if you can count to 7, you can play the thing. But you could also get very intricate on it. You could flat pick it, you could cross pick it, you could finger pick it. But because they're all stringed instruments, I really don't. I mean, the only thing I could say I've ever really struggled with was when I was 16 and learning bluegrass. The very first instrument. Yeah. And then after that, it really was not that. And I'm not saying that in a bragging way at all. I'm just saying I became familiar with it enough that, because I did struggle with the bluegrass when I started. I think, let's see what I did. The first guy I went to, he ran a store as he taught. So it wasn't a private room. We were out in the middle. So every time a customer would come in, he'd have to help them. So that didn't work out real well. Then I went to somebody else. He taught me 5 songs and said, that's all I know how to teach you. And I still didn't even know how to play. I just knew how to play 5 songs pretty much because I was teaching my eyes. So then I left him. And then right before I went to college, I ran into a girl who played in 2 bluegrass bands. And I went to her for a while. And then when I went to college, she made me cassettes with tab. And when I went, so when I went to college, I told, the guys, they all knew I played. And I said, I'm going to get a job teaching, playing banjo. And they all laughed at me. They said, nobody's going to hire you to teach banjo. And I said, well, so I went to a music store and I played them like 5 songs. And I said, I can't teach anybody to play like Earl Scruggs, but I can teach them to play like this. And they hired me. And that's really, I have to say this, that's really when I learned how to play.
Okay.
Because I had to stay ahead of everybody else. So I had to learn and practice and focus, where before I didn't have to do that so much.
Yeah.
And just for enjoyment. But that's really where I learned to teach and I learned to play.
Okay.
So, but you look at it, if you have 5 strings, ukulele has 4, Mountain Dulcimer has 3. So it's not like I'm adding more strings. And that's why I said I think guitar is difficult. I still struggle with guitar.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So you presently live in Pittsburgh, right? That's your hometown and everything, right?
I'm in Beaver.
Beaver. Okay.
Actually, Ohioville, but up near Beaver.
Okay. So looking toward the future, Lord willing, all of this pandemic will eventually subside. What's the future look like for Mr. Brett Ridgeway? Do you have any future goals, or what's the future looking like?
I'm really happy doing what I do.
Okay.
No, I've got some stuff scheduled in the fall that's not been canceled yet.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to get to that. I've got something in Georgia, something in, is it the Iron Furnace, Pennsylvania? I think that's what
Could be. I don't
Green
know.
Furnace, Iron Furnace. I
Yeah.
got that. And then something in North Carolina. That's the only things I've scheduled, and I'm hoping to get to go to those this year. But I just plan on keep growing the business, and
Yeah.
it's
How far? Speaking of that, how far have you gone? Traveled to do stuff with your music?
southwise probably Mississippi, northwise Minnesota or Wisconsin.
Okay.
That's as far west.
Far west. Okay.
And straight across probably Indiana. No. I've been over to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So,
Is that something you pursued, or did people just find out about you and start asking you to come?
every one of those I was asked to come. But I do put it out there. My mom passed away a couple years ago. My dad lives in Florida, and I try to go down and see him once a year. So when I go down there, I purposely try to set up things.
Yeah.
When I'm down there, but the rest of most people have contacted me.
Nice. Yeah. I've asked this question to a few different musicians, but do you feel like the internet presence has helped? Like, do you feel like it would be more difficult, like say 15, 20 years ago to
Yes.
to grow like you have?
Yes. Because I was doing this to some degree 15 or 20 years ago, and it was almost impossible other than just your local,
Right.
Literally town where you lived, and a lot of the stuff I did was just free. And occasionally I still do stuff for free if I feel, not usually when somebody wants me to, but if, like a historical society, I've done stuff free, because I think what they're doing is good, or like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, it was probably impossible before. And really, stuff like Facebook, I have to give Facebook a whole lot of credit and YouTube, because I really wouldn't probably even be known out except for those,
Yeah. So anyway, I think it's been nice having you on. I've enjoyed the conversation. I don't know about you, but I've enjoyed the conversation.
I have.
And it's been nice getting to know a little bit about you. I was definitely interested in the fact that, more than a musician, you're also a missionary. You're also into reptiles as well, Mr. Snake Guy. So the snake banjo Bible man, I guess, would be the
yeah, it's not always a good combination.
But like I said, it was nice having you on. I appreciate you being willing to do this. I guess in closing, if people would like to learn more about what you do, if they're interested in following and learning more about learning music and stuff like that. By the way, do you have like music for sale, like CDs or downloads?
Oh, yes. I've got several CDs for sale.
Okay.
If people go to brettridgwaymusic.com, just my name, BRETTRIDGEWAY music.com is my website. And if you search Learning for Life, Brett Ridgway's Learning for Life on YouTube, I come up there.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. This has been Abraham Klein here today with Mr. Brett Ridgeway, talking about his many interests that he's had over the years and learning about his music and stuff like that. Well, if you like this, please like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Yinz. Have a great day.
All right, well, that's our program. We hope you enjoyed that interview with Mr. Brett Ridgeway. We certainly hope that you'll go and check out all of his content on YouTube, and I think he's on Facebook as well and other places. So, yeah, definitely do that. Before we go, we want to make sure you check out all the other great programs on idiotradio.net. We have the Triple B and Double B Heavyweight Podcast, the Todd DeFazio Show, the Triple B Experience, the Beard on Food, syndicated from my ham radio. We have a sports show coming up, a tattoo show coming up, the best of the Double D Show, and the best of the Village Idiot Radio Show, the Village Idiot Show, and of course, Yinzer Club, the Yinzer Club Podcast. Also, don't forget to go on to idiotradio.net, check out great merch like this great hat right here, and it's also in shirt form. I don't have it on right now. It's in shirt form and also polo shirt form. And also go to yinzerclub.com and check out all our other great merch as well. This has been Abraham Klein for Yinzer Club. Hope you'll join us again next time for our program. I believe that's going to be episode number 7. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.